Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan AGAJAINIan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here at the Hollywood Museum in the historic Max Factor building on Highland Avenue in the heart of Hollywood. Our guests are playwright Shem Bitterman and artist, dancer, Annie Terrazzo. Actor, playwright Shem Bitterman was born and raised in New York City, went to the High School of Performing Arts, Juilliard, and earned a Master of Fine Arts in Playwriting from the University of Iowa. He's written several award-winning plays like Death in Columbia, Influence, Harm's Way, and Open House. Feature films for the big screen, he's written a lot, and in fact, you probably saw his movie of the week on Lifetime, Betty and Coretta. He's the head of the Play Lab at the Skylight Theater, where several of his plays have been produced. And what is the Play Lab?
The Play Lab is a group of writers that I put together in conjunction with Gary Grossman and Tony Betamarco and Michael Kearns and my assistant Tim Furlong. And what we do is we have an open admission. We accept material, 10 pages, and we go through it, and then we invite maybe about 6 writers in at a time. And so we have about 12 people in the group right now. They're all
who are writing, who've
yeah,
written plays. You choose them.
Yeah, they're all professional writers.
Oh, they are.
You know, or yeah, basically they're professional writers. And what's unusual about the Play Lab is that I ask them to come without a play, and they pitch a play within the group, and we all discuss the pitches among ourselves.
With the person or after he's left?
No, with the person.
With the person,
yeah. So we're sort of like a collective brain to, not to critique the pitches, but to discuss and to sort of expand upon the pitches. And then based on the pitches, and they begin to write the material, and it all culminates in a big festival where Gary and Michael and Tony produce perhaps 6 of the plays, and then we do readings and other things like that.
How often do you produce the plays?
Well, this is only the 2nd year right now, so we're hoping that this is an ongoing thing that we would do every year, you know, culminating in this festival.
It's kind of like a writer's workshop in a way, right?
Well, I've been in several writers' workshops, including Sundance, the Taper, Midwest Play Labs, and the 2 issues that I was dealing with were I've often gone to play workshops where I've already sort of finished the play, and I'm sort of addressing it almost from the perspective of like, is somebody going to do my play? And you know, that I've already finished. You know, so that's why I didn't want them to come with plays that were completed. And the other thing I was addressing was I often felt like the lab sort of stopped halfway. Like what I enjoyed was, I feel like plays exist in front of audiences. So I felt like I wanted to create a play lab that would actually bring the plays all the way through to you know, a semi-realized production and run them for a while so that people could really get a sense of how they worked.
And regular writing labs, you just go and you read your play and that's it? That's the...
No, there's many different kinds of writing labs. And like, for example, in the New Works Festival, which I did a ton of those under Robert Egan, who's a brilliant play lab director.
He's great.
He's great. And you know, and that one we would do 2 weeks of rehearsal, usually with amazingly good actors, and then we would do 2 performances in front of an audience. And you know, and I absolutely loved it, and I loved the actors, and I loved all the people that I met. But I always felt, and I think other people did, frustrated that, you know, that it wasn't going to production, you know.
Oh, I see. So this actually goes into production.
Yes,
At the
yeah.
Skylight Theater. Is that where they
Yeah,
do it, or at
well,
the?
I'm calling it a festival, but the festival runs 6 weeks, and
Wow.
and so last year, for example, we did 6 original plays, and we ran them for 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, so they really did get an audience.
Yeah, and they got a sense of how the
Right.
play worked in front of an audience, and it was really very, very close to a production.
You wrote Harm's Way, which was a PEN award-winning play. What was that story?
That's a story, well, you know, it's part of a trilogy of plays I wrote about the Iraq War, the first of which was
that's really nice.
Man.gov,
Oh,
and the second was Harm's Way, and the third was Influence. And the conceit of those plays was each play happened sort of 2 years later, and each had 6 characters.
So you had a lot of...
They were all dealing with different aspects of the war. The first one, Man.gov, which was produced by Circus Theatricals, which is now the New American Theater under Jack Stalin.
oh, Jack Stalin's there?
Yeah, that's his theater.
He's fabulous,
He's
too.
terrific, yeah. And I've done a million plays with Jack as well. And in Man.gov, which Bobby Cicchini, who's also in Open House and was in Influence, was in, that's a play, that was about the an arms inspector leaking to a reporter information about the fact that there were no actual nuclear, you know, that,
It's like
that
what
Saddam
we're going
did.
through.
Well, this was also based on the David Kelly story that happened in
Oh.
England, where David Kelly was outed as the source of the guy who leaked to the paper that Tony Blair had, quote unquote, sexed up the arms estimate to build a
Right.
case for war.
Right.
Now, Harm's Way is like 2 years later, and that's dealing with an army prosecutor prosecuting a young soldier for crimes in Iraq, war crimes, and his daughter sort of falls in love with the guy
Oh, of
and
course.
runs off with him, and the father goes in pursuit. So it's a sort of a cross-country dual love affair.
You've gotten all these awards, and I can see that the plays are really in depth because I've seen your work. The LA Times critics have given you awards and on certain plays. One of them went to Off-Broadway, published by Samuel French.
Yeah, you mean The Job?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was also turned into a movie.
The Job, yeah.
Yeah.
But if something is published by Samuel French, does that mean that anyone can pick it up and
Sure.
use it
Anyone,
in the theater?
well, anyone can pick up any one of my plays. No, they just have to contact me. But yes, Samuel French is it's a publishing house, but it's also a licensing house. So
I see. So they actually license your play out as well?
yeah, they function as a licensing house. They take a percentage, and and there are certain set fees for people who want to produce it. I have another one that I get a lot of residuals from that was done at Actors Theater of
I
Louisville.
was going to ask you Louisville. In Louisville,
Yeah.
tell me about that one, because that was also award-winning. Nightside.
Nightside, exactly. No, that one was a one-woman show that I had a wonderful actress in, Pamela Geen.
I was going to ask you about that.
Do
Yeah,
you know Pamela?
No, but how do you write for a one-woman show?
You know, it's so funny that you asked that, because right now I'm about to go to the Transatlantic Film Festival in Poland with Angela Bassett. She's going to come along.
Because she was in your film, right?
Mhm.
Your Lifetime film?
And I was looking for one character, one woman shows so that she could perform a little bit. And there aren't a lot of them, I discovered.
Well, who writes them? Usually the woman writes about herself and gets up and acts.
Well,
acts the
I
role.
found the Anna Devere Smith, you know,
Yes,
Twilight, Los
yes,
Angeles.
I know.
And I'm trying to think of, I mean, there's wonderful writers.
Judy Gold has written a piece that's at the Geffen right now. She's a one-person show.
A lot of them are biographical. This
Yes.
is a ghost story.
That's
Nightside was a ghost story about it's a super creepy, fun, Ruth Rendell-esque, because I love Ruth Rendell, and, you know, she sort of writes, I don't even know how to describe how unusual. She writes mysteries with no resolution.
Oh, right, okay.
Often.
Right,
You know,
so
she
that's-
writes the Inspector Wexler stuff that
Right.
has a resolution, but then she writes stuff with no resolution. And Nightside is sort of styled in a way like that. There's a crime is committed. A woman who has a flower shop, she sits in her window and she dreams, and she actually witnesses a crime against a child. And then she realizes at a certain point that the perpetrator is sitting in the park across the way and that he's watching her.
Oh, that's
that
pretty
he
creepy.
realizes he
That is
realizes
creepy.
he's been seen.
Oh, he knows that, yeah.
Yeah, and then she becomes incredibly paranoid. And the big resolution, the big reveal at the end, not to give it away, but is that she's actually the killer herself.
She
And-
goes through the whole thing herself, though. You've written all those words, and she's on stage alone going through all of that.
Yeah, reliving it because she is the perpetrator
Right,
herself. It's
right.
the ultimate unreliable witness.
And I love that Louisville theater.
Oh,
I
yeah,
love
yeah,
that.
it's great.
Everything that goes on there. Okay, we don't want to take up all our time about everything else you've written. First of all, let's get to Open House, because that's the newest thing. And then don't let me forget to talk about Death in Columbia, because I love that play.
I'm so glad you did.
So tell us about Open House, because that's the newest thing that's coming out.
Well, Open House is a two-character play, and it's I don't want to give anything away because it's a great suspense. People,
Oh, it is?
Oh yeah, people have likened it a little. They say it's a little Hitchcockian. They say it's a little. It's very. The two actors are extraordinary, Eve Gordon and Bobby Cicchini, and
Why'd you write it?
well, I wrote it. Almost all of my plays are in some sense a critique or a discussion of contemporary society, particularly as it relates to materialism. Not all of them, but
And Open House, they're realtors, right?
in Open House,
I could say a little bit.
yes, you could say that it's about a realtor desperate to sell a house. I think that comes right at the beginning.
Okay.
The lengths to which he'll go, and the person that he targets, and then beyond that, nothing is sort of as expected, and really it's about just how people look for connections, you know.
And they'll accept anything.
They look for connections and they're not sure exactly what they're seeing because there's a lens between them, and the lens in this case, in the case of Open House, is the lens of marketing language, selling
right.
language,
Of course.
all the kinds of things that get between people.
But all the kind of things that pull people in.
Yeah, they pull
That's the-
people
right,
in.
That's the idea.
And they deceive people, and they give people the impression that one
Totally.
thing is happening when really something else is happening. And even the person who's the presenter of this language, they themselves are ensnared often by their own trap.
Oh, you never really think about that part of it.
Yes,
That they get ensnared too.
Yeah, and this guy has a lot of issues.
We have to get him on the show.
Oh,
Bobby.
he's great.
We'll
I've
try
done
to get
so
him on.
many
And-
great plays with him.
And the other one that I loved was, I think, Death in Columbia, because I had just come back from Medellin.
Oh,
And so it really
wonderful.
meant a lot to me. And I wondered how you researched it, where you came up with the ideas.
That was a funny story. It was Earth Day, and I was riding my bike around because I ride my bike everywhere, and I ran into some people, and I always start conversations with people, and then they were.
I don't want to sit next to you on the plane.
Well, that's how I get all my stories, you know, just from talking to people.
Right.
And usually, you know, something leaks out. I'm like, oh, okay, make a note of that. So this guy was telling me this whole story about the U.S. War on Terror being actually just a cover for
The
oil exploration and oil drilling, and the spraying of glyphosate was all part of this this grand scheme of America to facilitate oil exploration in restricted areas in indigenous areas of Colombia. So, you know, based on that, I just went with that story. I was like, this is a great story.
Did you go there at all?
I've been to Colombia, yeah. So between the story and then drawing on my own experiences,
I was gonna
because
say,
I also travel a lot.
And researching it?
Yeah, I did quite a bit of research. I mean, I never, unlike Influence, which was about Wolfowitz at the World Bank, and in which I almost felt like I broke a story there, because again, I was talking to people and trying to figure out why the heck Wolfowitz was at the World Bank, you know.
Oh, right.
It was a strange place for the architect of the Iraq War to wind up. And I did find like a sort of a story that I broke from inside sources at the World Bank. This one I don't think I ever like landed on the absolute, you know, 100% source. But I love to research, and I did a lot of research for Betty and Coretta too.
You did a lot of research for that. You also taught in Poland, and you were in China acting, and
Well, I taught acting in China, and I've also taught in the prison system.
I know, that's pretty wild, because when I was on the California Arts Council, we used to give grants for people to go in, and I would always think that was so strong for someone to go behind that door. Once it closes on you in the prison, you're there.
You know, we had the most incredible program under Leah Jokey, where I had a bunch of people writing screenplays, gave all the screenplays to high-level studio execs who adjudicated them, picked the best two, and then I brought actors like Esai Morales and Noah Wiley
I remember when
and
Esai
Samantha
went.
Mathis.
I remember
I brought
that.
all these people in to read these screenplays. They were taped on camera, and for many people, you know, I mean, you can say whatever you want about the people in prison, but for many of these people who came from very disadvantaged and dark situations, this was their absolute highest moment to have, to be recognized in that way, to have a notable actor come and read something that they had busted their hump for in a positive way.
I know.
You know?
I thought that was a great program, and I supported it all the time, but I just still was like afraid to get behind that door. Thank you so much for coming today, and thanks for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. We'll be right back with Annie Terrazzo. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here at the Hollywood Museum with artist Annie Terrazzo, who hails from Colorado and studied graphic design and portraiture at the Academy of Art in San Francisco. Her work's been featured in TV series, published in magazines and online, and exhibited in London, New York, and Miami, and also Santa Monica. She's working on a Girgis play, The Last Days of Judas Iscariot. And what are you doing on a play? You're not doing the sets, are you?
I did the sets. I did.
Oh, you did.
It's over now.
You did do the sets.
I did.
I thought you were just doing the painting as part of the background.
Well, I mean, that's all that the set is. Basically, it is 6 very large, like 8-foot by 5-foot flats. And when I walked into the theater, you know, that was it. And there was 2 tables and 2 chairs and nothing. And my friend, the director, Josh T. Ryan, has been a long time friend and a huge inspiration to me in my work from the very beginning. And he goes, do something.
Do something. Did you know the play? Did you know Stephen Girgis?
I didn't, and I didn't see the
brilliant.
Yeah, I didn't see the original production, so I had no idea what it was. I got the music, I got the play, I knew who the actors were, but I was left to my own devices.
And it's at the Hudson Theater.
Yes.
And did you knew some of the actors?
Yes.
Were you working with the actors in order to see? Were you at rehearsals, or did you have to do this all before?
I was brought in 2 weeks before opening.
So they'd already been rehearsing.
They had been rehearsing. They had not even been in the space at that point.
Oh, they weren't even at the theater.
They were in a completely different rehearsal space. And so I was, again, you know, I had a very limited amount of time to create something. I knew Josh's style, and that was the one thing that I could latch on to. And
had you worked in theater before?
You know, I had dabbled in the
But you had to do the whole set this time. It was all depending on you.
Yeah. I believe me, on opening night, I was sitting there just sweating profusely as the lights went down and the actors came on stage. But miraculously, somehow, by the grace of God, you know, the lights went on and the music came up, and
the actors opened their mouths.
And they were in costume, and the actors opened their mouths, and it worked. It just went like that. And Josh was sitting right next to the director, and he looks at me and goes, we did it. We did it. You know, it really added to the play, and that was all I asked for.
And what did we do? You had these boards, right?
So, I mean, basically, I walk into the theater and go, look, this is my style. I use newspapers, I use paper, and I do portraiture on them. If we can do that, here and make it work, then I can do it. And they said, you know, here's a check, go and do it. So
You had to buy old newspapers?
well, it was a limited budget. And so I was like, $150 a paper, I can't do that.
Did you go to the trash?
I went and I got the LA Escort paper, the LA Express, which is 50
You mean
cents.
that are like in...
Don't tell anybody. Shh. This isn't being filmed, right? You know, I put 50 cents in and opened it up, and I just took them all. And I'll pay them back, I promise.
But they got, look at all this
Look
notoriety.
at all of the press they're getting.
I know.
LA Express,
And you
ladies and
used
gentlemen.
it. And you used it on stage, and all the people who come to see it.
There's so much tranny boob in that. It's
Is that right?
There's so much tranny boob.
So how many did you make? Did you?
I did 6. I did 6, and large portraits with pan pastel and colored pencil and ink, and just about anything I could throw up.
So
on it.
how do you get the paper onto the wood, onto the board?
Well, I did a lot of box tape and glue and.
Is
like
it single?
Each piece is singly cut and placed on there.
It is. It's collaged on the board.
Yeah,
I
and then
see.
and then I drew the faces, or used my hands
Over
to
the-
create.
And what
the
do you
look.
use to do that? What kind of material?
It was a colored pencil, pan pastel, acrylic paint.
Is it strong enough
nail
to show?
polish? I mean, anything I could find, I threw on it.
You use?
Yeah, I wanted it to have a, you know, it's purgatory. It's set in purgatory. So I wanted it to reflect kind of people in limbo, you know, but not so graphically like angels falling, you know. I just
Or
didn't want it,
devils.
you know, I didn't want it
But
to be
they're
that
not.
literal.
But what are the portraits?
You know, I wanted to do these kind of images that were kind of like taken in different stances. You know, like, so it was slightly blurred in only parts of their
that's
face,
great.
or like chunks taken out, like
Right.
missing parts.
Right.
So that was kind of where I wanted to bring it all together.
So no wonder it looked like you did it. It all worked, right?
Yeah.
So here we are. You're using old newspapers or new newspapers. Those are new newspapers, I guess you were using. You have work that you call trash portraiture, right?
Yeah.
And it consists of collage and found objects and different materials, I guess. You're giving a second life to old materials, is what I see.
I've always loved mixed media work and found object work. I've just been collecting things, random things, for years and years and years. The newspaper has come out of the kind of the digital age, you know, taking over.
I know.
And so I want to kind of try and preserve that, but add, you know, a story to you know, what I find.
Thrift stores.
Love it.
Just save everything. You
And
save
people
it.
send me stuff now.
Oh.
Every day I get a new box of treasure.
Oh, that's great.
And that is just the one wonderful thing that I've found about the people that like my work, are avid. And they find things and they send them to me, and I love them.
That's good for you. You don't mind if you don't find it yourself?
Oh no, and you know, my favorite thing when I'm working is to just maybe sit in my studio and just throw it all around me, just, you know, see what's there, you know, and let it kind of just form at that point.
So you'll use anything?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you'll use material, fabric?
Anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is not from your background, though. Your background in Colorado came, I think, from a little more genteel background than trash.
It was very sports oriented, and you know, my dad was a Formula One race car driver, and he used to take me as a baby, and I would sleep in the pit while he would go race the cars, so I could sleep through anything. And my mother, on the other side of the coin, was in the sex industry. And
she was?
Yes, and she was a schizophrenic at the same time, and which I think probably helped.
I'm finding this idea that your family was jewelry designing and plein air painting.
Yeah. And then that was another side of the coin,
Oh.
you know, was like, you know, I had a lot of influences in my life.
Well, I was thinking of the plein air and the jewelry design side of the family.
Yeah, that was a big part of my life as well. You know, my aunt, who is a plein air artist, was the first person who taught me how to draw a face.
Oh, okay.
You know, and so that, I mean, there were a lot of things that helped shape, you know, me growing up and the style that has, you know, followed out of that.
And then why did you specifically choose portraiture? Because I think most of your work, it has a face in it, or
Yeah.
something to do with that.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with faces and drawing them, and I always have been ever since I was a little kid, drawing faces. I think it lends something to the newspaper. People can hear a voice through the words and see the face of the person talking, or, you know, it helps get the idea across in my work. But
So what's the process, though? If you're going to do a portrait of someone, what's the process? Do you take a photograph? Do you do
I
a
can
drawing?
do it from that, and I do that a lot. A lot of them are from my head. You know,
Oh, they are?
I just kind of sit there and I dream of people. I look at things. Something will give me an idea. A lot of the inspiration comes from the objects that I found, or the paper.
Oh, I see.
Or, you know, if I have a joke I want to tell, or, you know, something like that, and I
But does it fit with that person? What you're finding?
It has to. It has to. Every single word that I use in the newspaper has to tell the story of what I want to say.
So you studied graphic design. Did you ever use that, or are you using that in what you're doing now?
I think it helps in kind of in any promotion that I do. But, you know, I worked in a magazine. You know, I worked in the graphic department of a magazine
you did?
in New York. And so, yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of things like that.
So do you see yourself doing more theater? Is this something that you actually really loved? Because we started talking about the theater part of what you were doing.
I would love to do more work.
Could you do sets?
I
mean,
could
you
do
don't need
that.
to have your paintings on them, right?
No, I don't have to. I mean, this was a very specific job that I was asked to do, but it opened my eyes to doing a lot of different things other than doing a gallery show. You know, it made me think I could kind of do anything.
But you have a wonderful book, and I think this is particularly good. I saw this online, This Girl with Cigarette.
Yeah, it all was born out of this magazine called Glamour Photography, and it was from about 1950s. And in the back, I mean, it was kind of like this kind of softcore porn of like, are you a photographer that wants to like get with your models? And at the back it said, a note for pretty girls, submit your lovely photographs to our magazine. And I just kind of like, I was like, I gotta say something about that. And I made somebody, you know, who I thought was pretty.
And then this guy.
Yeah, that's all done with vintage PEREZ ads.
Oh, so
Parisian
you
ads.
remember where the work comes from.
Every single thing I remember.
Oh, so that's the specifics of it. I see. And then let's take one more before we have to go. Oh, I love this woman with the goldfish in her mouth.
Yeah, that's I actually just redid that piece as well in brown with a browner background. But
Tell us about it.
It's all done with vintage drug ads from the 50s and 60s. So I found all of the drug ads that were, you know, amusing and interesting to me, and then
what do? Glue them on?
Yeah, I collage it in the back. I hand dyed the paper in the bottom, and then I collage another page that I can draw on, and I do. So it's like 2 or 3 layers.
And how'd you get the fish?
Ooh, well, that's the secret. I'm not telling you that secret. You have to read the piece to find out more.
So there's a piece that goes with each thing?
Yes.
Ah, so you tell the story and you do the piece. Mm-hmm. Well, Annie, you've been very interesting.
So have you. Thank
You've
you.
opened so many little doors for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching. Keep writing to JAQUINN1@AOL.com. And we'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.